In the upcoming conversation, we are bringing together two distinguished leaders in the field who will share their expertise and strategies for navigating the complexities of crypto investments. Please welcome Marcel Burger and Jos Lazet.
En Maurice?
Hi, wat zeg je? En Maurice. Wonderful. Sorry.
No worries.
It's
We can sit
please have a
together.
seat. That's okay.
I won't buy, don't worry.
You can have empty. All right, gentlemen. I'm going to start on the left. Maurice, yeah, you have a very, very fancy name for your company, right? Hodl.
Hodl.
Yeah.
That was the one question I had correct in the quiz.
Yeah, you did. We have a nice prize for you as well.
Perfect.
Yeah, what does Hodl do?
So Hodl is a fund manager in digital assets. We have different strategies across different funds in Europe. We launched in 2020 and we offer high net worth individuals, family offices, small institutions, access to the digital asset space via fund management. In a short sentence.
And then Jos.
Yeah, Jos Lazet, CEO of Blockchain. I mean, the three of us, we're all in asset management and service the same type of audience. Blockchain is a custodian. We offer brokerage and asset management, really focused on Bitcoin and Ethereum. Putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet is most of the pitch that we do. And a very software-heavy company, innovative, that's our pitch.
Why only Bitcoin and Ethereum?
Liquidity, volatility, it's quite a bridge the gap already to offer traditional parties a Bitcoin position.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're trying to make that a lot more secure, and yeah, that's what we do.
Wonderful. All right. Marcel.
Yes.
Please maybe shortly introduce yourself.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
So I'm Marcel. I'm not the CEO, but the CIO, so I'm the Chief Investment Officer with Amdocs. Amdocs offers a full range of digital asset services. So the first things that come to mind are staking, trading, and custody. And on top of those services, we offer also a range of asset management services, for which I have the lead in the organization.
Yeah, and you were the first, I think, in the Netherlands to receive a license from the Dutch National Bank.
Yeah.
And you were the first to receive some kind of accounting stamp.
The ESIA.
Yeah, that
Yes.
thing. Yeah. What does it mean? What does it entail?
Basically, it looks after how much you are in control with regards to all the processes surrounding trading and custody.
Yeah.
In a very brief nutshell.
Wonderful. Yeah, let's keep it in a nutshell. We can maybe discuss it later if time is permitting us. You guys are serving different clients, and I think it's very interesting to learn from your side, like, how do the investment strategies differ between both the institutional and retail investors in the crypto market? And what, like, unique challenges does every group face?
Maurice?
Well, the differences aren't that big. I once had an analyst in the traditional finance world who said, a pension fund is just a private investor with more zeros. And actually, this is very true, because you see the same kind of thoughts about the market, about the entering, about withdrawing, etc. I think that the main difference is the individual investor, the private investor, is a bit quicker to the table, and the institutions and family offices take a bit more time. They do a little bit more research, thorough research, before they enter into an asset class at all, and they want to know a lot more about the company. But in the end, if I look at the strategies, as long as your digital asset strategy is a small proportion of your wealth, there's not a lot of risk, but it can actually bring a lot of interesting things to the table. And that's what more and more parties see, and I think that's the same within the whole landscape.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, individuals are just a bit quicker in the decision-making processes than the institutions. But in the end, I think they look at the same things: is the risks, is the especially is how do you keep your digital assets, which with the two guys next to me, it's a very important discussion. Everybody wants to make sure they avoid the next FTX or the next Terra Luna.
I can see. Yeah, so they want to learn more about your company. Jos, you're also talking a lot with institutional investors. it will take more time before they did their due diligence and that kind of stuff. But what is it that is still withholding them? Is it just you being not offering Solana, or like what kind of reasons is actually withholding them from investing in Blockrise?
I mean, like similarly to your previous question, I think the major challenge that we're all facing is the education type of part of the services basically, and we all try to convince new investors into considering it as an asset as part of your total balance sheet. So of course, there's acquisition happening within the market, but in general, we see a lot of inflow in fiat that is converted into crypto. So yeah, that is I think the universal challenge that we all take upon. What is needed? I mean, better tools, better custody, better compliance. MiCAR is coming, which will help us a lot. Yes, it's a challenge. Yes, it's technical, but altogether, we work on this solution to improve this. This whole industry, basically.
You mentioned education, and Marcel, I really like your podcast.
Thank you.
I listen to it like twice a week. How do you, besides the podcast, educate your clients about risks and opportunities in cryptocurrency investments, and what common misconceptions do you still encounter?
Yeah, so let's start with the first question. What do we do? In general, when clients approach us, we first go with them into a conversation about their investment behavior. So basically, we take an entire risk assessment to check whether crypto as an asset class actually fits their investment behavior in general, and whether it fits their financial profile, so to say. And if then the answer is still yes, then we start looking for how much risk they actually want to take in this specific asset class.
And what if they say, I only want meme coins? Give me Pepe, give me Doge.
Of course, we have also an execution-only facility, so and we cater to both needs. So we have a managed service where we basically say, okay, we'll take your money and we'll invest it for you. But we also let our clients do it on their own, and as such, we of course we manage the total offering of tokens that are on our platform.
Yeah.
So there's some kind of risk management there, I would say, but in the end, it's always the financial responsibility of the client for taking the risk that they take.
Yeah. Now, in the previous panel and the previous panels, actually, we heard already about all these new cool developments, right? Real-world asset tokenization, new wallets, roll-ups, etc., etc. What emerging technologies and trends within the crypto space are you guys most excited about? And how do you actually incorporate them in your own investment strategies?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, the big challenge that we're facing is offering yield type of products to attract more of the institutional market.
So staking and...
Yeah, staking or even collateralized lending, those kind of protocols, but it's very premature. There's various parties working with MiFID or considering to apply for MiFID to be able to offer these type of solutions. Those, I think, are critical in order to really make sure that institutional adoption will happen, but it needs to be done right. It needs to be done in a high integrity way. Compliance need to collaborate as well. It's a challenge. And I mean, I think it will take at least a year or two before this really starts going on being presented, and then the adoption phase will take even longer.
What about you, Maurice? Because you're also investing in Web3 startups and scale-ups, right?
Yes, definitely. So one step back, I always find the term real-world assets a bit challenging, because I think we are the real-world assets. So the digital asset space, the industry here is the real world. And the real-world asset everybody talks about is actually the assets from the past. So what's the real-world asset? But if we look at, Web3 technologies and startup, we offer funds in liquid strategies, so that means tokens that are already on the market. We also have a venture fund that actually invests in tokens and blockchain projects that still need to be launched, so that is very early stage.
And what kind of cool new technological developments do you see there? Is it all deep in or tokenization. Let's just...
And we see a lot in, obviously the latest narrative is AI and machine learning.
Yeah, convergence, you mean?
The convergence.
Yeah.
But also what we see is that the gaming industry, which was a very strong narrative 2 years ago, actually had needed the time to kind of build. And you see now that the projects that the games developed are kind of maturing and ready to enter the market. So
Web3 based games.
yeah, Web3 based games are coming. And this is very challenging because you can develop a blockchain game very easily, but you need the community to understand why you need it to be a Web3 game.
Yeah.
Not only because you have a quick play to earn for the early adapters, but also for the longer term, why it should be a Web3 experience. And the best way a blockchain works if you don't know you're using it. So it's similar to your banking app. You transfer money from A to B, and the technology behind, if it's SEPA or SWIFT or whatever the bank uses, you don't care as long as it's flawless from A to B.
Yeah.
And this is kind of similar to Web3 solutions. You wanted to have it on the background running without you knowing, but you want your application smooth.
Yeah.
And as long as that is the case, then there's a real kind of...
Oh, exactly. I totally agree with that. We had, as I mentioned before, we had the Dutch Blockchain Week event last year at ASML. We invited more companies on the enterprise section that inspired us about their solutions. And indeed, I mean, it's all about, like, people don't care about the technology. It's the same, I need 5G on my phone, you know? Like, I don't care about the millions of kilometers of cables, routers, protocols, whatever. I don't care. It should work. And we saw this already last year at really cool companies like KLM and Google, etc., that spoke about the solutions that are already in place, but people don't know, people don't see. But you know, they're making use of the technology, and they are providing these new ways of communicating with their consumers and really having an impact. So
I think also that's where we're heading, so to say. So if you look at the developments of the past years, you saw crypto was really on its own. You had TradFi being really on its own. And I think the last 2 years specifically, we saw a move over from both sides to each other, right? So we had crypto becoming available through ETFs in TradFi, but we also see a lot of tokenization efforts, which basically started with tokenization of the dollar. I mean, we have a current 160 billion USDC crypto fiat market cap. So that's quite impressive. And on top of that, you now have a lot of tokenization of money market funds, currently amounting to 1.5 billion already. So you see it really speeding up. So my expectation is that we will see continuation of that development into equities and fixed income as well. Because it also helps eventually the financial institutions that are currently exploring those types of infrastructure to make their products better available for not only their current client base, but for a global client base, let's say. Next to that, it also helps them to gain a lot of efficiency advantages. So if you ask me, like, what's the next big thing, I think we're all looking at it, but not really realizing that it's really happening. And it's slow, of course. So that's why it's not so as sexy as things like deepin, for instance. But yeah, that's what I think is really the next big thing.
Yeah, but that's the thing. What is the next big thing? Nobody knows. I mean, I always think back when I had the iPhone 1. You know, I could not have imagined that nowadays I would sit on the phone 5 hours a day doing video calls with the entire world, managing my company, sending invoices, editing videos and that kind of stuff. And it's the same, I'm already thinking, what will happen with the iPhone 25, right? I mean, it's the same with all the applications that we now are building or thinking about. We just don't know. I mean, I think that's also the exciting part. You know, we just don't know what will happen in the upcoming years. What we do know are things like the Ethereum ETF, things like the monetary policy, right? The rent increase, decrease, that kind of stuff. Do you really think it will have a significant impact in the upcoming months on the broader cryptocurrency market?
Which one specifically?
Let's start with let's start with the Ethereum ETF.
Yeah, I think it all depends on expectations, right? So what you saw with Bitcoin, people were when the first ETFs were launched, people were disappointed in general because there was not a lot of volume, but it was only like in the first week, and after that, people were really surprised by the huge amount of inflow there was. If you look at the analysts, the larger ETF analysts, they also speak of in very impressive interest because I think those ETFs, especially the BlackRock ETF, was the first one to reach a 10 billion mark and also the 20 billion mark within the entire range of ETFs that are out there. So
1,400 ETFs.
Outperforming in terms of like inflow within a specific time frame, outperforming the entire range.
Yeah.
So if we can have that same kind of outperformance of expectations, then it will be a massive bullish event.
But like what I think is interesting to consider here is that Hong Kong launched the ETF a little bit later, and that was very disappointing compared to the analysts.
Yeah, and I think that's also a good point there, because before the ETF launch in the States, you already had some ETPs in Europe, but those were all issued by parties who, with all due respect, I hope they're not in there, but they don't matter as much as BlackRock matters, right? So you have like the largest names in the industry being there to support our cause, and that really helps.
Yeah. For the US person or US company, an ETF makes a lot more sense than for us because they're kind of used to the product, and with the capital gain tax they pay. It's very easy if it's in their normal portfolio, and they can just at the end of the year get a statement from their broker or their asset manager and say, okay, this is the amount of tax you need to pay. Well, if you hold your own Bitcoin and you buy a cup of coffee, you need to calculate your capital gain tax in the US, which is ridiculous, obviously. Yeah. But to get back to the ETH approval, I think the 180 degree of the SEC in the run the week before, actually, they approved was a lot more interesting than the actual ETF. I think the volumes will be lower than Bitcoin, because the Ethereum volumes are lower than the Bitcoin volumes. But the turn that the SEC made, it got on the political agenda of the elections in November. I think that was very interesting, and how does this will turn out for the sector in general. And if, I don't think the chances are big, but I'm not a politics expert, Biden gets re-elected, will he turn it back? Huh? Is it, that's also a possibility. So,
he didn't make very tough, let's say, promises, right? I mean, Trump literally said, like, hey, I want to have every next Bitcoin being mined in the US, that kind of stuff, right? Biden didn't went so far in saying these kind of things. He was like, oh yeah, crypto is not that bad at all.
But in the previous election, he was kind of against.
Okay. Yeah.
So the political is
the sharp edges are being.
He had like the permanent suspension of the investigation, which is for the Biden administration, I would say pretty bullish.
Yeah, definitely. And you can say a lot about Trump, but the things he say, he actually does. He started building a wall between the US and Mexico, and so I mean he
did deliver on his promises.
Yeah, he does deliver. I'm not a fan, but for one thing, you cannot blame him.
Now, gentlemen, although we can talk for hours about all these beautiful developments, but also here we only have 25 minutes, so we're going to close down this conversation with looking forward. What is this really this one development that you guys are really looking forward to? We spoke about ETF, we spoke about the MiCAR already. What is this one thing that we haven't discussed maybe here already on stage that you guys are really looking forward to in, let's say, the upcoming 1.5 years? So not the upcoming months, because I think we already might know what will happen. What is this next big technological thing? Is it the convergence with AI, or what is the big thing that you really are looking forward to really excited about in the upcoming 1.5 year?
For me, it's the combination of things that will make the whole world, the 24/7 economy we're living in, needs blockchain, because it's really weird that you can trade certain assets only on weekdays, and when something happens in the weekend, you're stuck and you need to wait till Monday until you can trade your shares. So I think the blockchain technology embedded in everything we trade and deal with, I think that will be the most important part.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that from a EU perspective, compared to the US, where the US is always leading with technology and compliance and regulations coming later, EU is now very much ahead with MiCAR coming up 30th of December. Yes, it's a challenge. Yes, it's regulatory. It's not the most exciting, but I think for us, the institutional market, it will be very good that there's another level of regulation, and that will help with the adoption. If it's what Maurice is talking about, or if it's just putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet, there will be a lot more viable traction. So I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, I concur with Jos there, and to add to it, I'm really bullish on the integration of crypto and TradFi. So the most recent developments you saw with BUIDL from BlackRock, where you can actually use your USDC to convert to tokenized money market funds. I think that development will further expand, and I would love to see it happen within the next 2 years. Maybe that's a bit too fast, but it's hard to say because things are really speeding up right now.
Yeah, we had MasterCard here already in a previous conversation that was already working on all these cool solutions. I mean, they're thinking about next year, not in 2 years. So time will tell. Maurice, Jos, and Marcel, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen. Thank you.
Dankjewel.
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 Thanks.